fellow teachers, welcome back to my channel. I am April and I am here to share with you today some tips and tricks for one of the most hotly discussed topics online for teachers, planning time, also sometimes known as prep time. We as teachers know how valuable that planning time is. Please don't take it away from us. We need it. So let's make the most of it. In this video, I'm going to share some tips and tricks with you to maximize your planning time. So let's get started. Our first step is all about setting priorities. Begin by making a to-do list of what you need to accomplish. Jot down all of those tasks, both urgent and important. By identifying those priorities, you can better allocate your time and focus on what truly matters. As you go through your list, consider putting your task in 3 groups: high priority, medium priority, and low priority. This way you have a clear idea of where to invest your time and energy during your planning period. Now, let's talk about time blocking. It's a fantastic technique for managing your planning period effectively. Time blocking involves putting specific time slots for different tasks. Let me tell you a little story about my first years of teaching. We had 30 minutes. 30 minutes was the maximum amount of time that we had to plan our lessons for the year, the week, the month, the day, what have you. And when you think about it, that's a very minimal amount of time for teachers. So minimal, in fact, that I was spending hours planning after school on the weekends, taking away my personal time. So I know there had to be a much better way. And I worked really hard to figure out what works best for me. And so I'm going to share my tips and tricks with you on how to effectively maximize your planning time. So raise your hand if you go back after dropping your kids off at specials and you think, what should I do first? Same friend, same. So this is an easy trap to fall into. The best thing you can do is create a schedule. Now you might be like, I don't have time to make another schedule, April. Totally understand. I know exactly what you're saying. I'm not saying schedule every single thing that you're going to do. I'm saying come up with a consistent schedule of what you can do over time. So for example, maybe take 5 minutes to focus on some specific tasks that you want to accomplish during that time away from your students. I have staff meetings on Monday afternoons, so I know I'm not going to be able to get much done after school on a Monday. Therefore, I use my planning time on Mondays for tasks that I may not be able to do necessarily every week. So maybe I'm grading essays that day. That's an example of something I can do because it's not always going to happen all the time. Another thought, Fridays. Oh my gosh, just exhausted and worn out. So I want to keep my tasks minimal. I don't want to do a lot of heavy thinking and overanalyzing and planning on a Friday. My Fridays are going to be more for things like making copies if I need. Whatever the system is that you choose to do, write it out. So I actually have designated specific tasks on certain days just to help me effectively maximize that time. I also like to post it right behind my computer so that I have it right there to look at and say, okay, here's this day, here's what I want to get done. So if you've ever heard of meal prep, the idea of batch planning is going to be very similar. I love batch planning. When I discovered batch planning, it changed my entire planning process. It saves me a lot of time as a teacher. It saves me a lot of energy. And it saves a lot of stress of planning day by day or week by week. It can really seem overwhelming at first for some people, so I always recommend that you start with a very minimal task of batch planning and build and add more in as you go. Batch planning also creates a better streamlined unit for your planning needs. So when I was planning my first unit of reading for this school year, I mapped out all of the lessons that I needed to teach using the standards that I am teaching. When I was ready to work on my lesson plans for the next 2 weeks, I had already had everything mapped out. And so that made it so much easier to create those weekly lesson plans. And I was able to accomplish more in a less amount of time. That's a win-win for me. Tip number 3, you want to eliminate distractions during your planning time. I'm laughing because I can also be a distraction. So all of my friends and teammates are like, can you practice what you preach? I totally get it. It's so easy to get bogged down with all of the things that we need to do as teachers. There's communication between colleagues, administrators, parents, students. Set a specific time during your planning period to read and answer those emails. And I highly recommend doing that later in your planning period. If you have to return phone calls, same thing. I love to do those types of tasks at the end of my planning period because then I'm not getting distracted by, oh, here came another email through, or, oh, I need to look at this email and deal with this right now. And then I lose my focus on all the other tasks I need to do. You also want to turn off those notifications on your devices. So this could be a personal device, a school device, or both. Eliminate the sounds and those pop-up notifications because those are so easy to get you off task. So I purposely do not have my email sound on because I don't want to hear it while I'm working on other things. I will read it when I have a chance. That's how I go with those things. Same thing with my phone. I have notifications on, but I keep the sound off. Even if it's linked to my watch, I take those notifications off so I can stay focused during that time. It's also okay to close your door and set that boundary for yourself and your colleagues. There's nothing wrong. You're not being selfish or rude about it. It's clearly just setting a boundary that you need some time to be alone and to focus on what you need to do. You could do these things every day, maybe a few days a week. Do what works best for you. It's also okay to use some time during your planning period to take a mental break. Maybe you've had a morning with your class and it is just one of those days and you're like, I can't even with anything else or anyone at this moment. That's okay. Take that time for you. Maybe you get to work later than you expected and you're feeling really rushed and overwhelmed. That's a big trigger for me. If I don't have enough time to get myself ready for the morning, then my whole day feels discombobulated. Or maybe you're just exhausted from all of the things that you have to do because we all know it's not easy. These are all things that happen to every teacher, and sometimes we just need a moment to ourselves. If you're allowed to go off campus, I encourage you to take that opportunity and do so occasionally. If that's not an option, or some people don't feel comfortable doing that, I totally understand. Just, again, close your door and set that boundary for yourself. Maybe you're somebody who likes to play music. Get yourself into the zone of working and doing things. Maybe you just want to spend a few minutes playing a game. Just set a time so that you don't spend your whole planning period doing that. Whatever it is you need to do to feel at your best as a teacher, do it for you. Then you will feel refreshed and ready to take on whatever the next task is. You'll be able to focus and feel ready to tackle your to-do list during your planning time. Remember, you cannot get it all done. Yep, I said it. You can't. We always say as teachers, we need more time. But let's be honest here. No matter how much time we're given, it's never enough. The struggle comes from all of the things that we are required to do with the little amount of time that we are given. It's okay. If you feel like you are not thriving, you are not alone. There is not a single person that gets everything done in the hour or 30 minutes that they are given for planning. Because we have to do grading, we have to communicate, we actually have to plan and prepare our lessons. You can't get it all done all the time. And that's where you need to give yourself some grace. As long as you are there for your students and you have your lesson ready to go, that's all you need. The emails, the messages, the communications, the grading, those things will all still be there. They're not going anywhere, which I know can be frustrating and overwhelming, but the most important thing is that you're focused on the here and now. Everything else will be there later. I really hope these 5 tips for how to effectively maximize your planning time helps you just even a little bit. The most important thing to remember is that you are doing your best and you have people that care about you and support you. Start small and work your way up through those tasks. Find the most efficient process that works for you. We're all different and unique in how we try to get things done. We just have to figure out what works best for each one of us. Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. And remember, I love this journey for you.